Hey, Mr. X. My name is Shelley. After listening to some of your Glitch in the Matrix videos, I finally realized I had a place to share my experience with people who wouldn't immediately write me off. When I was a child, around 7 years old, my parents took me on a vacation to North Carolina. Being from the Midwest, we would always fantasize about spending all day at a beautiful beach somewhere, so naturally, that was one of the main things we wanted to do on the trip. My memory leading up to the event is so vivid. We arrived at the beach, all bubbling with excitement. I was wearing a bright blue life jacket over my bathing suit. I ran straight to the edge of the water to start digging for little crabs buried in the sand. My parents came and picked me up, telling me to get in the water with them. My mom held one of my hands, and my dad held the other. I was still small enough to do that thing kids do, where they lift their feet up and suspend themselves between their two parents. They swung me back and forth playfully as we made our way deeper into the water. I kicked my feet in and out of the waves, having an absolute ball. Suddenly, a particularly strong wave slammed us. My parents were unprepared. I guess they didn't see it coming. Before I could react, even before I could feel the fear of danger, I was ripped away from both of them and sent hurling under the tide. I remember the sound of the ocean and the queasy feeling of being completely bowled over by a wall of water, totally unable to fight against it. It all happened so quickly. A few seconds into the terrifying experience, I got the distinct feeling of a hand grabbing the back collar of my life jacket and sharply yanking me back. My body glided through the water for a moment before, well, everything changed. The next thing I knew, my parents were walking side by side with me again. We were all dry and about 20 feet away from the water's edge. My young mind unable to comprehend what exactly was going on, I simply asked my parents, "What happened?" They had no idea what I was talking about. "With the wave," I said. "You were swinging me in the water, and I fell out of your hands. Someone pulled me up." "No, we haven't even been in the water yet, sweetie. You must have been dreaming." Now, Mr. X, I've never been one to nap, even as a girl, and especially not when I was on a super fun vacation at the beach that I've been waiting for all year. The thing that hurts the most is that even at the young age of 7, I was completely adamant that I had been through something that was totally unexplainable. It's been over 20 years since then, and I've always known that what I went through was real. It was unmistakable. Did I experience a glitch in the Matrix? Did someone or something save me? Could whatever it was have been the reason why my family couldn't remember what happened? It's always so easy to write off what a child says as being in their imagination, but I honestly believe, I know, I saw what I saw. I've never had another moment like that in over 20 years since, and I believed it from the moment it happened. It was never even a question in my mind. Anyway, thank you for taking the time to read this. Shelley. Dear Mr. X, my name is Jim, and I have a story for you. No cryptids or monsters in this one, just a glitch. Something happened to me many years ago that, to this day, I cannot explain. I was a freshman in high school. Every so often I'd walk home instead of waiting in line for the buses. It was a pretty long walk, but if the weather was nice out, it was actually enjoyable. One day, I was walking home and came to a local bridge. It's important to note that this bridge goes up and down at a somewhat steep angle. It's not flat and level between the two roads it connects. It's more like a hump. I was about halfway across the bridge when I heard the sound of a car coming up behind me. As most people probably do, I felt that instinctual need to get as close to the guardrails of the bridge as I could, to avoid getting in the way of the oncoming car. A few seconds later, a large black luxury car drove past me. I was already looking in that direction to see what the car looked like, so I got a pretty good view of it. I immediately noticed that there was no one in the driver's seat. It took a second for this to register in my mind as just being wrong, I guess I just wasn't expecting to see what I saw. Remember, this was several years ago, long before self-driving cars were really a thing. Even the modern ones have sensors and equipment attached in order to help the cars navigate. This was just a regular car driving with no one inside. I also don't think it could have been in neutral, because I could hear the engine revving to get it over the hump, just like anyone driving on the bridge normally would. As the car passed me, I got a look at the license plate. It was there, but it had no letters or numbers printed on it. I wondered how in the world this car could have been cruising around and not get pulled over with a plate like that, let alone the fact that no one was driving it. I watched it, almost in awe, as the vehicle turned smoothly into a side street close to my neighborhood. I never took my eyes off of it. I decided, perhaps against my better judgment, to follow the car and see what its deal was. I walked down the road it took until I got to where it was parked. It just stopped in the middle of the road a couple of blocks in. I kept my gaze locked on it the whole time. As I got closer, I heard the engine shut off and saw the headlights turn off as well. I was so confused by that point. I absolutely had to figure out what the hell was going on with this thing. I walked right up next to it. The first thing I noticed was how incredibly clean it was. Both the outside and inside of the vehicle were totally pristine. Not even a single speck of dust anywhere as far as I could see. The car was completely empty of any personal items, as if it was brand new off the lot. I could see a key plugged into the ignition, and all the doors were locked. What I could not see was any indication of the make or model of the car. There were no logos or branding anywhere, not even on the tires. For some reason, that's what weirded me out just enough to get me to leave the whole thing alone. I turned around and started walking back up the street. A few paces away, about 20 feet, I turned back to look again, and the car was gone. There hadn't been a single sound outside of my own footsteps and the ambient noises of the neighborhood. The car never turned back on, nor did it drive away. I'm sure of it. I ran back to the spot where the car had been and found a normal 8x11 sheet of printer paper on the ground. I picked it up and turned it over, revealing a printed image of the car that was just there moments earlier. I dropped the paper and ran home as fast as I could, unsure of what in the world I had just witnessed, but not really caring to find out any more. I know most people would probably chalk this up to the imagination of some kid, but I'm telling the truth. I can't explain it, but this is what happened to me many years ago. Thanks for listening. Jim. Greetings, friends. Thank you to Shelley and Jim for reaching out to me and sharing these stories with us. I know these were a bit shorter than usual, but I wanted to get something interesting out to you today, and I've been extremely short on time. By the way, if you like Glitch in the Matrix stories, not only do I have a few more available on my channel, I also have a design on my Teespring storefront that pays homage to this subject matter. It's a pretty cool design if I do say so myself. Go on over to my Teespring and check it out if you're interested. If you want that or any of my other designs on a shirt or hoodie or even a mug or pillow, make sure you send me a picture of yourself wearing or using it, and you'll be featured in an upcoming video with some upgraded eyes just like mine. So let's talk about these stories, and then I'll let you in on what's been going on behind the scenes in my little world. So, as many of you may know, especially my old school followers, I myself had a very intense experience with a glitch in the Matrix back in my youth. I made a video about it and a few others which I'll link in the description down below. So I definitely empathize with both Shelley and Jim. In Shelley's story, the first thing I wondered was something she herself asked me in her original email. Who or what was it that saved her? To feel a hand grab and pull you from danger is one thing. Normally, you would think she would just end up being safely on shore and her parents would still be in the water or something like that. However, she wasn't just simply pulled to safety. She experienced some kind of time jump to what may have been several minutes into the past. Just as interesting though, and this is something I thought of as I was writing this story, What if she was actually seeing into the future and never physically went through the near drowning event? If you were having a premonition as a child, how would you be able to tell the difference between the seen world and the real world? Very fascinating stuff to ponder. Many people would probably attribute her rescue to an angel or another supernatural being. If that were the case, I wonder why she was saved. It's another question that may never be answered. As for Jim's story, a concept I've been thinking a lot about lately may apply. I've often thought of the idea that sometimes things in this possible matrix reality of ours fail to load or render properly. Perhaps an object renders a second too late, or it renders incompletely. It could look hilarious when seen in a video game, for example. If you've ever seen those videos where characters show up with their face missing and it's just an eye, a set of eyes and teeth. Looks crazy, but what if that happened in real life? It could be much more difficult to make out. I would like to assume that the programming of our world simulation is a little bit more complex than Assassin's Creed or Skyrim. A dog or a cat pops into the middle of your view in broad daylight, or a car spawns without a driver, is noticed by the system, and then just disappears. I cannot fathom an explanation for the printed photo of the car, though. Very interesting stories indeed, in my opinion. Let me know your theories in the comments down below. Now on to the news I have for you all. I know my video releases and live streams have been a little sparse lately, but that's because I've been working very hard on some new content for you all. I've been inspired in recent months by some of my colleagues here on YouTube, creators like Mr. Black Pasta, Mr. Davis, and Stephanie Swan Quills, even my boy Axeman Cartoons, and I've begun working on some fresh new content, things that you've never seen before, formats and subject matter that are going to be shown to you in some different ways that you're not accustomed to, and I'm very, very excited about that. The first big project I've been working on has become a monumental undertaking with basically a 24-page script, at least 10 different characters, and multiple settings. And I'm probably going to have about 150 original sound effects that I have to create and master. And I'm also going to be playing a major character, so I'm going to sound a little bit different. And actually everyone involved, all the YouTubers you probably have heard of before, even a couple of newcomers such as a former fan turned colleague, Raven Lavina, and a new favorite of mine, Ghost Mummy. I also have several listeners from among my beloved subscribers, old school supporters who have shown a lot of love to my channel and support. I gave them some cameo roles that I'm sure they'll all be excited to hear. And so far it's all coming along really well. But everybody's going to be pushed to their limits of actual voice acting, not narration, but voice acting. And that's a very different ball game, and we're all doing our best with that. But I think we can pull it off. I have every faith that we will, and it's going really well so far. So wish me luck with that. If you want to know what the progress is looking like for that, just follow me on Twitter. Anyway, friends, I hope this year has been treating you well so far. Love you guys. I'm Mr. X, and may your nights be full of dreams. Oh, and by the way, these glitch stories show that there are some serious bugs in our reality. If you hear this message, include the word bug, or some variation thereof, in your comment down below. Later.